Hello, this is Heather Hoffman, and I'm here today with a card using the December 2020 Kit of the Month. I love that fun little birthday. It's all together with the sentiment and some fun little images, so I thought I'd do a simple little watercolor card using some distress inks to watercolor. I'm going to go ahead and start by stamping it on Strathmore watercolor cardstock. I'm using my Misty because when you stamp on watercolor cardstock, it's nice to be able to stamp multiple times. It's a little harder to get a clear image with the texture of the watercolor paper. So as you can see there, I went ahead and stamped it, especially that sentiment. It's a little more solid, so I stamped that several times. The outlines wasn't as big a concern, but I went ahead and did several times there to get a good image with the sentiment. All right, I'm using a mix, just kind of a bright, fun rainbow mix of distress inks to watercolor. Just smooshing them onto a clear block and then adding a little water. And I'm kind of doing a tone on tone around each balloon. So I started off with picked raspberry, colored in that first balloon, and then watered the color down a little to kind of go around the outside. And I'm going to do the same thing on each balloon as I progressively go along there. The next color there is carved pumpkin. And I actually, at the end, once I finished these colors, I did add a little bit deeper colors. The yellow and the green I picked ended up being not quite as bold and bright as I wanted them to be. So I did come in with a darker color a little later on and just kind of brighten those up a little. But this is squeezed lemonade that I'm doing there. And then the next color on that next little balloon is going to be twisted citron. And kind of by going in rainbow order on this, you kind of guarantee that the colors are going to blend together nicely, which is kind of a good safe bet. You know, the colors are going to be complementary next to each other. And if you work nice and quick like I'm doing on this, each of the colors I'm overlapping before the previous color dries, so you get a good blend. Those are just going to naturally mix together on their own. All right, finishing off there with the last color. If I'd had a bigger block, I probably would have just smooshed them all out and left them on there, because as it turned out, I ended up coming back and using all the same colors again. But oh well, what are you going to do, right? And it wasn't that much ink, so I wasn't that worried about it. You could do this with any watercolor paper as well too, or I'm sorry, not watercolor paper, watercolors, just liquid or solid watercolors. You don't have to use distress inks. That last blue I used there was Salty Ocean, and then the two deeper colors I'm going to add in here were Fossilized Amber on that yellow, just to darken that up a little, and then Mowed Lawn, just to be a little bit of a brighter, little more obvious green on there. And then once I'd added those on, I went ahead and dabbed a little more color around just to deepen that outer color. And then that's about when I decided, well, you know what, if I'm going to do it with those two colors to make that blend, I should probably just come in and do it with all the other colors as well. So I went ahead and smooshed everything else on there. And at this point, since I was adding kind of a second layer of color, I was trying to work fairly quickly so that it didn't dry out either direction on there for me either. So adding a little bit of shadow and blending around. Yeah. And then I'm going to come in, once this is all finished, I'm almost done there. I need to add a little bit more there and a little bit more of that blue color. Once I finished adding all the colors on here, you can already see how the balloons are a little bit darker than the area around them, but it kind of gives a fun glow around them. But once that dries, I'm going to pull out my Glossy Accents. And this is going to do, as you can see there, I set it aside and let it dry a little bit. I have a fine tip on my Glossy Accent bottle, but once I add this on, I'm adding a good solid coat to completely cover those balloons. And this is going to do a couple things for the finished card. It's going to add some fun dimension. It also deepens the color on those balloons, so it makes them just stand out a little more and makes the color a little more intense as well. So once I finish that, you can quickly see it on there, and once they dry, it adds such a fun shine. And I just trimmed this panel down and mounted it on a white card base to finish off. Thanks so much for coming by today. I hope you enjoyed and have a wonderful day.